Welcome to a special edition of Taiwan Hashtag. We'll be talking about Taiwan's recent local election. I'm Ross Feingold. I'm joined today by two great guests. Jerry Liu Shijie, former city council candidate here in Taipei for the New Power Party. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you for having me.
And Captain retired Chang Ching of the Taiwan Navy and also a senior fellow at the Strategic Studies Society of Taiwan.
Yes.
Great. Let's get right into it. This was not a very successful election for the Democratic Progressive Party, known in Mandarin as the Minjindang. Captain Zhang, pretty lousy election?
Well, this is the bloody lousy. Yeah, that's a terribly awful. To be, to some extent, there will be a catastrophic ordeal for the DPP in the future, because there's not only for the vote, they have the statistics reflected by the vote. There's a certain kind of tendency, the young generation, they have the certain kinds of, the change the wind direction, if you would like to say that. So there will be a bad indication.
Jerry, if we look at the map, actually the number of city mayors or county executives that the DPP or Kuomintang won at this election, roughly the same numbers as 2018. A few shifted, but if we total them up, it's around 5 for the DPP, pending one election still upcoming in Chiayi. What happened to the DPP this time?
I think one of the main reasons is that people are so tired of the so-called 抗中保, which means anti-China and protecting Taiwan. This kind of rhetoric has been turning useless or meaningless to the young voters, and that's why, as we can see, the DPP lost many young voters in this election. Traditionally, young voters tend to favor DPP, and that's what happened in the past. But as we can see in this year's election, the candidate of the Taipei City Mayor Chen Shizhong for the DPP actually is considered to be the least favorable candidate to most young voters, which is not common compared with what happened in the past, because usually the candidates from DPP usually is more favored by young voters. So as you can see, young voters, they are so tired of the anti-China and protecting Taiwan rhetoric, and they want to see what can really make changes and which politicians, which candidates are really good to the future government. And that's what happened to the map. You can see the DPP has been facing a landslide failure or catastrophe in this election. And also, I think another main reason is that people don't really trust how the DPP government has been dealing with the pandemic thing. I mean, I would say it's very fair to say Chen Shizhong was doing quite okay at the very beginning of it, as he was the central command of the pandemic thing. But I think he failed to answer the question that why he quit as the central command of the CDC and turned into a candidate. He failed to answer this question to the public, and I think the public cast a vote to show they are not very satisfied with the answer.
Jerry, you mentioned that maybe the younger voters were not so interested anymore in this 抗中保台, this kind of opposed China, but
I have a kind of disagree use this term, because the so-called 抗中保台 is against the China in order to protecting Taiwan. There's no logical linkage. The reality or the true nature of that is the provoking China in order to get the political mobilization, get the vote get the young generation out because they can turn them on, But there is no logical relationship, particularly in the strategic calculus that, to provoke the China in order to show I'm very courage that I have trying to protect you. But in reality, there's no logical linkage on that. And I also would like to argue that there's a lot of people believe that the so-called 抗中保台 this kind of scheme will be lost is the efficacy in a future election. I totally disagree. Because this time they use this scheme is somehow you are the wagon. They are going to feed you the stick. Now, this is a wrong dish in a local election. You are just, this is the candidate for this election. They are not to elect those representative like legislator in Liyuan or in the presidency. They only choose someone as a local government or council. So this is the wrong dish to serve on the table. This is the reason why they cannot actually stimulate the young generation. Then also there's another factor I might agree with Mr. Liu, because there are certain kinds of argument cannot convince the young generation. Particularly, there's a certain kinds of indication. There's the camp leadership. They got a strong intention, or they faced numerous pressure from the United States in order to extend the conscript, the duration of the conscript. And there's such a uncertainty, which also will affect the support from young generation.
Jerry, this China angle, it works so well in the 2020
It used to work in the year of 2020, right?
As Chang Ching mentioned, the presidential and legislative
it might work
election.
again in the year of 2024. I'm not sure, but this year, this election is a local election, and so people will turn their thinking to something really meaningful to our daily life. Just say I was talking about the pandemic thing, right? And also the vaccine, the rapid test. I don't think the government of Su Zhenchang, the Premier Su, has been performing really well. And I think to some extent he has been very arrogant to the public, and it demonstrates in how he answered the way that he answered to the legislators. He has been very arrogant to respond to the public opinion, and I think the young voters, they have been observing, and that is not what they want. It's not what they want. When the pandemic was going up, the government was not providing enough rapid tests, and again, they was not providing enough vaccines, and also about the medicine, the 高端疫苗, the whole stuff. It has been very. It's like a mix. It's like a mix. It's something that people don't quite understand what's going on inside the government. It's kind of the government is not revealing, is not providing 100% transparency.
No, Jerry, I only partially agree on that.
Okay.
Because if we go back and review.
Wait, I love this because Chang Ching, you're not going to defend the government, even though you're no fan of it. So go ahead.
No. What I'm saying is that the pandemic has become an issue in the election. It's only happening in Taipei City, because one of the candidates is the commander of the epidemic control center. So he is Chen Shidong. He happened to be one of the candidates. But if you go and review things happening in Kaohsiung, in Hualien, in Tainan, nobody ever mentioned about epidemic. So you may argue that the mega trend, which is very negative, especially it seems so dubious about the vaccine and all the lack of preparation and incorrect policy, a lot of stupidity disease ever occurred during this, the epidemic is how to cope with the epidemic. But most of the voters, they are just only concerned about some interest and the issues that immediately are to them, especially in Hualien, in Yilan. The major concern, they never mention about the vaccine not, yeah. Even in the central Taiwan, you know, nobody put it in a debate about vaccine, you know. So the mega trend.
I think in Hualien it's another story. In Hualien, we all know about this. In Hualien, is the full family, right? It's a full family, the Fu Jia, Fu Kunqi. So I think it's another story in Hualien. It's not fair to compare what's happening in Hualien. No, I'm not very kind.
Most of the time they call them mafia. You know, Jerry, you actually you are the former diplomat. You are actually very polite. Most of the time they call the mafia food.
But that actually brings up a good point, because we've been discussing the really bad result for the Democratic Progressive Party for 10 minutes already, and neither of you have mentioned the Kuomintang and why the voters might have voted for the Kuomintang. It sounds like you're both saying that the result was based entirely as a vote against the Democratic Progressive Party and was in no way a vote for the Kuomintang.
Ross, from case to case, as you may notice, I'm a diehard KMT. Now, from case to case, they are actually very different. You know, certain kinds of, in a certain areas, a certain the constituency for vote, they have their distinctive the characteristics for vote. Sometimes you can get your things after I get my vote. There are certain kinds of linkage or exchange relationship. Now, individual charisma, such as say the one in New Taipei City, okay, Mr. Ho, and the one in Taichung City, Mr. Lu. They have the personal charisma. They have already achieved certain kinds of performances. So there's somehow there looks sounds like quite the atmosphere is somehow very banal. You know, if I would like to use the terms no, it's the relative compound. So on the other hand, in Kaohsiung, you know, the DPP got the leverage, and Ms. Ke Zhiren go there and trying to mobilize the people on the green camp. You know, even there's knowing that they will definitely lost the vote, but they still mobilized in order to keep the momentum. So there are many sophisticated backgrounds behind every individual constituency. So we cannot generalize on that.
But you still didn't say anything that really distinguished the Kuomintang candidates as, you know, certainly from a policy perspective, why voters would have voted for them.
Well, from case to case, I don't think that you cannot find out in a general rule why there will be some kinds of surprise that is already expected, but no one can actually find it. The only reason is they don't want the DPP, not they choose the KMT.
Jerry, why would people vote for the Kuomintang or even the Taiwan People's Party?
Yeah, I think what people say is that the biggest party, the most powerful party currently in Taiwan is that they hate DPP, like 不相信民进党, or they dislike DPP. Is the biggest party now. So it's not like they favor the people, the candidates from KMT. It's more like, hey, we are so tired of the DPP rhetoric. We are so tired of all the candidates from the DPP. So they don't like the people from DPP. And what choice do they have? They might cast a vote on KMT, or they might cast a vote on the Taiwan Minzhongdang. What's the TPP?
Taiwan People's Party.
The TPP. So I think if the people, if the mayor, if the candidate from the TPP is strong enough, is good enough, people might cast a vote on them too. It's what happened in Hsinchu, Gao Hong'an, right? Gao Hong'an won the seat, right? So it's not people always like the people from KMT. They also choose the candidate from TPP. But the case in Tainan, in Kaohsiung, is we all know that it's the main base for the DPP, right? So it's very difficult to change the base in Tainan and also in Kaohsiung.
There's a certain kind of structural factor behind the Tainan and the Kaohsiung. Where fairly speaking, the Xie Longjie actually he has done a
almost
great
won.
job.
Yeah, losing Kuomintang candidate in
he
Taiwan.
actually, and he has, I mean, shown his personal charisma. So he got a huge potential for making the progress. And for Mr. Ke Zhiren, the maximum mobilizational volume for the vote is something like 560,000. Okay, that's the maximum we can get from the die-hard KMT, the camp.
In Kaohsiung City.
Yeah, but only got 4 months. Actually, the Eric Zhu he exercised a very poor leadership. He assigned the Zhang Sanzhen and assigned the Ke Zhiren to it's only very not too much time left. So only 3.5 months, Ke Zhiren can reach the vote about 520,000. That's amazing score.
Captain Zhang just mentioned a very interesting point, which is in this local election, generally the candidates were selected by the party chair people, whether it's Tsai Ing-wen for the DPP or Eric Zhu for the Nationalist Party. Now, a couple of the candidates have run into some problems with plagiarism, and that actually really hurt the DPP when one of their high-profile candidates, Lin Zhijian, who was originally the mayor of Hsinchu City, was running for mayor of Taiyuan City because he was term limited in Hsinchu, and then it turned out he had a plagiarism problem. What's with this plagiarism problem?
Okay, I might just go first. I think Lin Zhijian, he personally brought down the party. I mean, he destroyed.
I hope they're watching this. Former Mayor Lin.
It's very fair to say that. I mean, if Lin Zhijian had responded his case in a different way, the DPP might have done some damage control in the very beginning. But
yes, exactly.
But Lin Zhijian chose to defend his reputation in the very beginning, and he didn't make it. So I would say it's very fair to say Lin Zhijian destroyed the DPP election this year. The plagiarism, as you mentioned, has turned to be a very important or very influential factor in this year's election. We are talking about the person in Keelung, Tsai Shi-ing.
The DPP candidate.
Tsai Shi-ing, who was the who was the candidate of the Keelung mayor, right? And his PhD dissertation was just canceled 2 days ago. I mean, after the election, I mean, imagine if it happened before the election. Wow, there would be a huge blow to the DPP.
He's still alive. He would have lost either way.
Right, but what I'm saying is that we are talking about Tsai Shi-ing, and we're talking about Zheng Wen-can, right?
Oh, Zheng Wen-can is much clever. He deal that he's the damage control is much better.
Outgoing mayor of Taipei.
Yeah.
So the plagiarism factor has been so important in this election. Not saying politicians should have a PhD or master's degree, but I think what people do care is that you gotta be honest. You gotta be honest. If you want to be a politician, you have to be honest. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to the public. And if you are not being honest in getting your degree, then and when that was revealed, that will become a huge blow to yourself. Yeah.
There's a certain kind of misperception in Taiwan's politics that although there's a lot of people they don't want to be the Chinese, but this is actually a very typical Chinese tradition. Okay, because you need a certain kind of degree to prove that you are clever, you are wise. But actually, you got a doctorate degree. I also got a doctorate degree. That is defined as 4 years of misery, 10 seconds glory. Jerry is clever. Jerry, he never tried to get a degree or a postgraduate degree. Because you have the master's degree, you have a 2 year bloody, the miserable time. Then you got only 5 seconds when your name being called, right? Then you have the 5 second glory. For us, got a doctorate degree, they will read about the title of your thesis, then you got something like 20 seconds glory. Now, for someone, that will be unnecessary. I always say that you need to get a doctorate degree in order to prove your stupidity. Because you need to consume a lot of time, follow the academic requirement in order to get that degree. It's just like a lot of Asian civilization. They all need to build a wall in order to prove the stupidity. So this is some kind of misperception, So this is the reason why, regarding about the Cai Shiying, I would assume if you come back and compare his title of his master degree and his doctorate degree, you should understand the plagiarism. Even you copy something from your previous work but not noted, it still be defined as a plagiarism.
Let's talk some more about misperceptions, to borrow the word that Captain Chang used, and that's how does the U.S. or China look at the election result? Because I think a lot of American experts would just assume that the Kuomintang is hopeless and the Democratic Progressive Party is really looking at being the ruling party in Taiwan at the national or local level for a long time, in part because of tensions with China, but the result went very differently. How does the U.S., Jerry being a former diplomat, how does the U.S. look at, or China look at the election result?
Well, I think because this year the election is the local election, so I think for the U.S. part, for the U.S. side, they would not consider the outcome of this year election as the indicator of the future diplomatic angle for the DPP government. They don't think the Tsai Ing-wen government will ever change, and I don't think the loss of the DPP does not mean that the general public will accept a change of the Taiwan diplomatic factor as in terms of the Taiwan-U.S. relations, in terms of the Taiwan-China relations. Even DPP it's facing a landslide failure, and I don't think it should be interpreted to the fact that the people in Taiwan is more pro-China or is more favorable to China compared to two years ago.
So the election's not a vote in favor of the 1992 consensus, for example?
I don't think. I think it's totally another thing. It's different matter. It's a different.
It's irrelevant.
Okay, Captain Chang, I saw Kuomintang spokespeople were saying that
no,
this
that's
election,
very stupid. Don't even mention about that.
This election.
You're not very
No. That guy is I'm really diehard. He's some. He is alien.
But I saw Kuomintang spokespeople said that this election was a vote for the Kuomintang defensive democracy.
Because you licked the democracy in Washington and licked the Tokyo. Well, therefore you won. That's a totally awful misperception.
Well, then why would the party spokespeople say that the voters voted this way because of the Kuomintang's U.S.-China policy?
He need a mental check. This is the worst comment I would expect. It's totally irrelevant how the KMT will try to reinforce the connection with the U.S. Political circle, community, in order to set a representative office is totally irrelevant with this election. That's awful. Mr. Lin has made a very awful comment on that. But I would address that after the election, there's the scholar who actually know well about the cross-strait relation. They all try their effort, try to disconnect with the 22nd and the 2022 and the 2024 election, because the nature of these two elections are totally different. The first one is Bonnie Glasser. The second one is the Sherry Riggs, then the Richard Bush the third, and Douglas Paul and Sun Yun.
Well, so, Captain Chang, you know how much people in Taiwan love to hear what those foreigners say.
Yes, but they have reached a certain level of consensus. Even their wording are different. They are trying to identify this are two things. They are two different elections. So there's no connection, say there's no consequential effect from the result of the 2022 election may hit on that. If we also may recall on 2018, then what will happen? 2019, the Hong Kong, the riots, which almost last a year. There's a certain kind of emotion projection on that, particularly in Taiwan. Taiwan, particularly in those elections, central level, central government level, is actually very emotional to some extent. So the Hong Kong, the riots in 2019, which is the big factor. And also in November 2019, there's a case happening in called Wang Liqiang in Australia. We have not found a result. And the network who is happened to be your old boss, they come over, for the new southbound policy. They cooperate with the MOFA. Then they have to show that, then adding this flavor, say there's someone defect from China, 2018, he bring billions of the US dollars to billions of the renminbi come over and support Han Kuo-yu and change the result of 2018. Hey, this is total bullshit. But there is a very striking, in fact, especially in November. So this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of factors may still occur in the coming year, 2023, to affect the election in 2024. So, and also from the United States perspective, in the 2020 election, immediately after the vote, the director of AIT come out saying, we make a conclusion, there's no external interference. This is a fair and open election because they already perceive the candidate they favor, which means Tsai Ing-wen, will definitely win the election. But this time, after the result emerge after the night on 26th, it takes 4 days. The director of AIT will come out. There's an AIT press conference, and she is not who actually take the initiative to comment on the election. Let the press reporter, everybody ask her, show whether the process of this election be open, fair. She finally, with a certain level of reluctance, say, we are very happy to see that the process is fair and open. That is something lyrics used by the diplomats, but with no sincerity.
It's very interesting to observe the AIT director. Actually, the former director of the AIT was a gentleman, right? Christian, right? And
yeah.
And his style is very different from the current style, right?
Yeah.
The current
the incumbent is much more, how to say,
conservative or or
more regular, more professional.
I would just say it's more diplomatic. Yeah, but the former one, the Christensen, he was very
actively involved in the local politics.
in the social media of the AIT. I've been observing the AIT Facebook fan page for a long time, and under the previous one, the previous director, the AIT Facebook fan page has been very active and very successful in getting the attention from the public in Taiwan. Compared to now, it's a huge contrast.
But also, it's the difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration.
And I'm not sure if that did it on purpose or it's just a change of the director.
No, I think this is just like the Ross says, it's a directive from higher authority. Use the social media.
From the DC?
From the foggy button.
Foggy button.
Okay.
You know what is foggy button, right?
But it's not fair for me to, or it's not proper for me to comment on the.
You already left the government.
Right, but
you still got a fear. I left the Navy.
It's not a fear. It's not a fear. It's not a fear. But I'm just saying I don't have enough evidence to prove on that. Right?
Jerry, what about 2024?
2024. Yeah. You mean who can win the election?
What do they have to do to win? Whoever it is.
He got more
I think it depends on. I think it depends on the China factor. So this year, for the election in 2022, I think the CCP has been refraining from itself, from provoking Taiwan, and then that means the DPP cannot maneuver the anti-China and the protecting Taiwan sentiment to get its vote. And I'm not sure if they will do the same thing in the year of 2023. Just say if the CCP it's provoking Taiwan again, is doing something stupid. Just say launch a missile across Taiwan, and which will be used as an excuse for the DPP to get a sentiment from the public, and then it will be beneficial for the DPP to win the election. But just say if the CCP keep quiet for the whole year in 2023,
that's impossible.
Then the DPP will try to find another way to maneuver the sentiment from the public. And I think Mr. Zhang made a good point.
Is actually provoking China.
By saying, no, it's not what I just said. What I was saying is that in the year of 2020, the election, the case in Hong Kong was successfully used by the DPP to maneuver the sentiment.
Sentimental projection.
Right.
Okay, on sentimental projection, that's a perfect note to end the discussion, Captain Zhang. So I've been joined today by Chang Ching, retired naval officer, and Jerry Liu, former candidate for the New Power Party as the Taipei City Councilor here in Taipei. I'm Ross Feingold. You've been watching Taiwan #OnStorm. Thank you.